Welcome to the most overrated, underappreciated, most viewed, underviewed podcast of all time. Welcome to. I said welcome to. Wait, hold on. You're supposed to say it along with me. I know you know the words at this point. I said welcome to the Prince of Fresh Air. This is your host, the most charismatic man in entertainment. And I'm looking forward to this next guest, Jeremy Bryant. Really great guy, really chill guy. Amazing guest, and he's also a podcaster too. So let me give you a little background on Jeremy, so you know what to expect with this conversation. So Jeremy Bryant, 33 years old, stepfather of two, originally from New York. I'm from New York City, so we don't really claim him per se. He's from the state, so he don't count. I'm just kidding. Really great guy. He also hosts his own podcast called The Bracket Bastards. So I will agree with the title. He is a bastard. No, I'm kidding. He's a great guy, a great podcast. They basically break down brackets and tournaments of TV shows, movies, video games, and stuff in that nature. So if you love that kind of stuff, entertainment, definitely check out his podcast. And let me tell you something. Breaking news. I'm breaking the news. That's right. I'm doing it right now. So he's also in the works of making a new podcast dealing with the paranormal activity. So people involved with that, people who love conversations with that, and maybe interested in sharing their experience with paranormal activity, definitely check out his new podcast. Details to come soon. So definitely give him a follow. Definitely check out his podcast, and definitely look out for his new one. And, we're going to have a great conversation. We talked about Will Smith, the Oscar slap. We talked about wrestling. And that's right. If you like Stone Cold, give me a hell yeah and drink some beer. So I hope you guys enjoy this episode, because I know I did. And if that's the bottom line, because the most charismatic man in entertainment said so. So let's get started in 3, 2, 1. And like I said, I know you just went through a successful surgery. So I'm not sure. We was talking about this a little bit before. So how did it go? How you feeling? Is everything good with you?
Yeah, I just went through a gastric sleeve bypass surgery, and I'm doing good. I mean, it's sore. Got 6 or 7 cuts on my stomach from where they literally inserted the tools and cut a piece of my stomach out and pulled it out.
Ooh.
And then they suture it all back together in like a sleeve type thing, so that your stomach basically just drains right into your intestines as fast as could be.
Oh, what is that? Is that like for like weight loss or something, or?
Yeah, it's a weight loss type of surgery to help people who just can't lose weight on their own. Like, I've been trying my whole life to lose weight, and I'm lazy to begin with, and I'm a stoner. So I mean, the odds are against me to begin with, and I never could lose enough to really keep it off. So this hopefully will be a good way to live longer.
Oh man, I'm glad it went well, because I'm sure your wife and your kids are happy that everything went well. You're back home, resting, enjoying a couple of days off, which I'm sure everybody loves at some point. But yeah, I'm
2 weeks off, brother. 2 weeks off.
Oof.
And Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga comes out tomorrow. I am psyched.
He got 2 weeks to enjoy yourself. Ain't nothing wrong with that. But
yes, I do.
Let's get into it. So, I know I said I'm gonna ask you about the Will Smith thing, but I'm gonna wait a little later. I want to give you the chance to, talk about yourself a little bit. So, like you said, you grew up in Kingston, New York, and stuff like that. How was your childhood, and how did you eventually end up getting into podcasting? Because I'm sure a lot of people always ask me specifically, how do you start a podcast? How do you get involved? So how did you grow up, and how did you get into podcasting?
Well, I grew up with a basic white male suburban life. I mean, childhood was pretty easy. I grew up in a basic middle class family. I mean, had our little group of friends in our suburbs. We were allowed to basically ride around our bikes and do whatever we wanted pretty much most of the day once we got to a certain age. And we just had to be home by dinner, basically, like the typical stuff you see in memes on Facebook. But I mean, basically, I just all through life, I never could figure out what I wanted to do. Spent 7 years in college, wasted thousands of dollars in loans, and none of it ever came out to anything. I mean, yes, I graduated with a couple of associates in business, which taught me marketing, which definitely helps with podcasting. But other than that, I mean, it's just didn't do shit. So now I work for as a retail merchandiser for an actual paying job at the moment, and I love my work. So I have free time at nights and I have flexible schedule. So, and a group I'm on Facebook called Bracketology, where it's basically just you can vote for between movies, between TV shows, between actors and actresses, whatever. And the head of it, Freddie Fisher, wanted to start a podcast and he put a post out about it. So I replied and I'm like, hey, I'm very personable. I've always been told I'm funny and I say outrageous things. I'd love to be on a podcast. So eventually it just ended up happening. A couple months later, we started recording and we just found out that we all click really well and we do good.
Oh man, that's amazing, incredible. So, because I, as I said, like you do brackets and tournaments, and you talk about amongst other things, but you know, for me and for other people who may not be too familiar, because I do follow sports, mostly UFC. So brackets, is that just are you talking about like basketball, and stuff like that, or?
No, not at all, actually. We typically do, we, none of us are huge sports fans. Like, well, actually, well, that's not true. A bunch of them are sports fans for stuff such as like football and whatnot. And there, a lot of my co-hosts are huge wrestling fans. They were blowing up our chat over the last 2 nights because of WrestleMania.
Oh
But
yeah, I was watching. Oh yeah.
I haven't been into wrestling since like 2000. I watched wrestling from like not from like Royal Rumble 2000 was the first wrestling I ever really watched, and then I watched until like 2005, six, and and then I kind of dropped off until college when I got back into it from like 2011 to like until Shield came, and that's the kind of, when Shield came along, I was like, oh fuck this, these guys are idiots, I'm done. And plus that was the time when they were adding a third show a week on, and I'm just like, I don't have 6 hours a week to dedicate to this. I can't. It just no. So, but mainly the brackets we do are like we've done Disney films, we did a Will Smith bracket actually because one of my co-hosts, Harvey Laguerre, hates Will Smith. Like he just doesn't like Will Smith with a passion. So like
Really?
it's interesting. He just doesn't like Will Smith. He just can't, and he's actually an African American too. So it's even more ironic he doesn't like Will Smith. But
Wow.
I mean, yeah, we give him a lot of shit for it. But so I got to pick the bracket one week because I won our trivia at the end of the previous show. And so I talked to the host separately and I'm like, we're doing a Will Smith bracket just for Harvey, just to piss him off and to get so he can get all his grievances out against Will Smith in every movie he did. And it's actually it's a hilarious episode if anybody ever wants to check it out, or just check out all our episodes. I mean, we're hilarious. I just hosted a two-parter video game pre-2000s bracket, and it was interesting how it ended up. I don't want to give away spoilers, but the final match between the two winners of each week might make a lot of people mad.
Yeah, man. I was gonna wait to do it, but you know what? Since you mentioned Will Smith, let's do it because I know a lot of people was probably waiting for me to talk about it, but I never got, I never did it. So let's talk about Will Smith. Now let me ask, did your buddy hate Will Smith before the Oscar slap?
Oh yeah, we did the Will Smith bracket like months ago. Like he's basically like when we were doing our superhero movie bracket, which is one of the first brackets we did was a comic book movies bracket, and Hancock came up, and that's when he made the mistake of telling us he does not like Will Smith. Like he thinks he's an overrated actor and all this, and like that that he can't really rap, which I disagree with, but a lot of people agree with that, I know. But I mean, so basically he hated him before the slap thing. This slap thing was just like gravy on his potatoes. He as soon as it all came out, he just basically told us all. He's like, "See, I warned you all about him for a long time now."
Wow, I can't believe it. A black man that hates Will Smith. Oh my!
I know it makes our podcast all the better because that dynamic.
Wow, I can't believe he hate him. But you know what? Let's talk about the Oscar slap, the slap that was heard around the world. That everybody's heard about it. Everybody and the grandmother has chimed in on it. But let's talk about this. So, as we both talked about off camera, nobody knew the Oscars was on TV. It's been the ratings has been terrible, I think, in the last 5 years, give or take. And Will Smith, you know, he made it popular again, at least for the time being that he, committed the act of violence that he did. But I want to get your opinion on it. What do you think uh about the situation? And do you think people are blown out of proportion and that people are treating him unfairly over this incident?
I mean, well, to me, there's two different ways to look at this. One, was it real or was it all staged? Was it like wrestling where they talked backstage beforehand and been like, he's gonna insult your wife and you're gonna go up and smack him just to get ratings? Like, I don't necessarily think it was planned and staged, but who knows in this day and age, like Illuminati, like who knows like what the hell they're doing. But overall, I just think, I mean, yes, you don't talk about a man's wife, like especially when like, yes, I didn't know if she really has it, if she has alopecia or however it's pronounced. Like I didn't know she really had it. I never heard about that. But I mean, it's just, and she's done so much wrong to him in the past few years, like
Oh yeah.
the whole telling him she's having an affair on live TV and everything thing. Like I personally, I'm just like, why are you still with her? Like, if a woman did that stuff to me, I'd be gone. I mean, yeah, it's a celebrity couple, so it's a different dynamic than normal couples, but still, I mean, it's just everything she's done to him, and then like that look she gave him, like when Chris Rock said that, and he just walked. I mean, I think it's kind of hilarious the whole thing when he just walks up on stage and slapped the shit out of him, and just the fact that he goes back to his seat all calmly and is just like, keep my wife's name out of your fucking mouth. Like, I respect that part. I respect like, but you could have just yelled that from the audience. You didn't really need to get up there and make a physical display of it. Because as who was it? It was a famous athlete. Oh, God damn it, not Magic Johnson, but
I
you know,
forgot.
I know. I could see his face too, but I just can't. I think he was a boxer. I think he was a boxer or a basketball player. He's one of the two, but I forget who it is at this. Oh, no, much just clicked, but he said like this just makes the African American race. It brings all the stereotypes they already have against them, and it just multiplies them and gives people more to talk about. Like you don't need to do that in live TV. Like if you really have a problem with it, address it after the show with him in person and just say, "Hey, that wasn't cool. Like you need to apologize to my wife for that joke."
Right.
Like you don't need to bring that in national TV because now you're kind of a joke to the world because you've had more memes made about you than anything since Trump was president.
Right.
So it's like, I mean, but I mean, yeah, some of these memes are freaking hilarious. I will agree with that.
Oh, I posted a couple on Instagram. I've been having fun with it. And
Oh, I threw up on Twitter the video for I could beat Mike Tyson, and I said they should change it to Chris Rock. He should go in the studio and make a remix for the first time in years.
there's I know there's one meme where Will Smith slapping him. It's the aftermath where Chris Rock face is kind of turned sideways and Will Smith head flat. And it's like someone wrote a caption, now I know why paper beats rock. It's that and the everybody hates Chris meme that is
I've seen that one, yeah. But I mean, yeah, I like the whole like the whole changing of the Fresh Prince theme song, which it's just hilarious. Like, Mama
people.
told me you can't slap Chris Rock just because your wife has no hair. Like, it's just it's. I mean, the whole thing. It was fun for a day or two, but I mean, as soon as the next day after it happened, we're out there on Twitter and stuff, like putting back out our Will Smith episode and like hashtagging it like Will Smith, Chris Rock, and everything, just because we're going to use the publicity from this to try to get our listeners up a little bit more. But I mean, who wouldn't? But
Oh, exactly. Yeah. I mean, it got so bad that people who wasn't involved, like other celebrities, Amy Schumer and Jim Carrey and a bunch of other celebrities that wasn't even involved in this incident, or, oh, I'm traumatized, or, oh, I feel unsafe and unprotected. It's just, first of all, you had nothing to do with the circumstances. And two, it's my thing. You mentioned it before, don't talk about another person's wife. And I've told people this before. Um, it's like this. It's not the first time Chris Rock has chimed in on their marriage. I think he did the Academy Awards or some award show last year or the year before, and he mentioned the couple again. And did Chris Rock deserve to get slapped? No, because I'm sure he didn't know about Jada's condition. But you don't get to talk about somebody's marriage, especially, I get it, you're a comedian. I love raunchy jokes, I love brutal jokes. But one thing I would never do is talk about somebody's marriage and relationship or somebody's partner, especially when they've been together for many years and you constantly make fun of them. And I feel bad for Will because, like you said, people has been making fun of this man, the crying meme when he was on the Red Table Talk with his wife.
oh god,
And
yeah.
I I agree. I'm not one to talk about their marriage because I don't know what's going on in there. Although a lot of celebrities have said they're into open marriage, I'm not sure, but I do think to some level he has been emasculated by Jada through her Red Table Talk, having him come up on the Red Table Talk talking about her entanglement with August, and we'll talk about that because a lot of people had some interesting takes about that too. But it's like you can't keep talking about somebody's wife and keep making them the butt of a joke. And I see people make comments like, "Oh well, Jada has been saying this about Will." Well, the difference is they're married. She can do that because
Yeah.
that's her husband. That's
Behind
their marriage.
behind closed doors, you can say whatever you want about your partner. I mean, you may get slapped yourself, or you may end up sleeping on the couch, but you can say whatever the hell you want about your partner behind closed doors. But you don't go, you don't go to a public like school thing and start bad mouthing your partner to other people, like or like you don't go to a wedding and start talking about your partner to other people at the wedding. Like if you do, it's just gonna have bad consequences, and everybody knows that. Like anybody with common sense can see that.
Right. And my thing, it's not even the incident that bothers me. It's the aftermath of the incident. I see Washington Post and a bunch of other big media platforms calling Will Smith a thug. He has thuggish ways. Somebody even mentioned is like he still has the hood mentality. And I'm like, I look at it from two perspectives. One, you have a black man who came from the projects where I grew up from too, but he grew up in the projects and he made a life for himself, a career for himself. And he's had an unblemished record for 30 years in the entertainment industry. Upstanding guy, upstanding movies. Whether you like him or not, that's your prerogative. But you never heard of him, touching little kids, raping women, committing crimes, and none of this stuff. This guy has been unblemished. And one little incident, now people call him a thug and they treat him like
No.
scum. But then you got people like Harvey Weinstein, who's been sexually assaulting women for decades, and other people in the industry who's gotten away with committing sexual acts against kids and women. And I haven't seen nobody calling to have their awards taken away. I haven't seen them blacklisted. And yeah, there's been instances of few of them, but there's still a lot of them still working in Hollywood who still gets awards, who still work on these big productions. And Will Smith is getting treated like this. It's just unreal, and it's kind of appalling. Like, do you
Oh, I agree. I mean, it's the he's one of the only rappers that can literally say, "Oh, I cursed once in all my music I ever put out." Like, and you want to call him thuggish? Like, there literally are other rappers with thug in their name. I mean, hell, Bone Thugs and Harmony shout out, but but I
Right.
mean, it's just like it's he's always been one of those people who's just like the most family friendly person you can be. Like everything he does is just family friendly. He doesn't even make dirty jokes in his movies most of the time unless it's like that type of movie. But I mean, he doesn't like he threw a lot less dirty jokes into Aladdin than Ron Williams did, for God's sake.
You know, someone made up my buddy made this comment, and I agree with him. From Spider-Man, the Tobey Maguire series, I remember Green Goblin. I'm forgetting the actor's name. It'll come
William
back to
Dafoe.
me. William Defoe. I remember this one line he said, and I think it was Spider-Man 1. He said, no matter how much good you do in this world, eventually people will hate you. And I, it's sad to see a guy who, like I said, who's been an upstanding entertainer for so many years, lose his cool for one moment. Again, this is not an armed robbery. He didn't pull out a gun. He didn't put him in a hospital. He didn't, take him away from his family and children.
No.
He slapped him. Okay, was that wrong? All right, yeah, but people are treating him like this violent criminal, like he's been hiding in Hollywood for so many years. And like I said, you've never heard him abusing Jada Pinkett Smith. You never heard him beating his kids, hurting people, hurting innocent little kids. And people are treating this man like the nearest criminal in Rikers Island. It's appalling to me. And like I said, all these comedians and people chiming in and talking about, oh, they feel unsafe about doing comedy shows. It's like, first of all, this wasn't a comedy show. This was an award show. And at some point, we all lose our cool. And I think people are hypocrites. I always say this all the time. People are hypocrites. People always like to poke fun and, oh, look at him. He did this. But how many people have slashed their ex-boyfriend's tires because he cheated on them, or vice versa, or someone beat up their little brother, or their sister, or whatever the case may be, slapped their best friend over an argument? It's people are just being hypocritical, and they treating him like a violent, gangbanger criminal who's
Yeah.
been in and out of prison for like 50 years.
I mean, they're acting like he's Mel Gibson, like coming out Nazi. Like they're like it's almost as bad as that, and it's almost to the point where it's worse than that. And I'm like, Mel Gibson did a lot worse stuff. He said a lot worse things. Like you're making everybody's blowing this out of proportion just because it's the day and age where the internet's going to do that. And I mean, the internet is, as much as I love the internet and what it's brought to this world, it literally is destroying this world slowly on its own.
It's cancel culture. And I did a whole podcast episode, and that cancel culture, you seen it from the dude from The Flash, rightfully so, because he made some real uh derogatory comments about LGBT and minorities. But you've seen it with Joe Rogan, now Will Smith. It's just, when people catch one of you doing anything wrong, it's like this lynch mentality. And like I said, it's one incident. This wasn't the most violent thing. It was a slap. He didn't, he didn't put him in the hospital. So yeah, okay. If you want to say, all right, well, there's gonna be a couple disciplinary actions for your behavior. Understandable. But now you got, movies he's been working on, deciding they want to put a hold on it. He had to resign from the Academy Awards membership, so he won't be eligible to win awards again. Um, like the it's just crazy, man. And I hate to bring race into this, but a lot of people have made this point. It's like, you see all these white celebrity actors or entertainers who's done way worse, like I said, saying racist comments, sexual um touching going on in the workplace,
Yep.
and they get away scot-free. And then get a black man who's been upstanding, and just trying to defend his wife, and he gets tossed to the side like a piece of meat. It's crazy, man. It really goes to show to you, nobody is safe. No matter how much good you do, one mistake in the public eye, your
I mean,
your reputation's over.
it's almost like ironic in a way because I mean, look at Whoopi Goldberg. She just made a comment, like basically saying like, "Oh, the Holocaust wasn't that bad," like a couple months ago, and all that happened to her is, "Oh, you're off the View for a couple weeks." Okay, that's a punishment. Like that's a vacation. That's all that is. Like she got nothing. All she had to do was offer a weak apology, and she got off. Like, and it's because who she is. Obviously, I mean, she's Whoopi Goldberg. She has a lot of connections, but I mean, it's just, and then they're just basically crucifying him almost. And the funny thing is, I watched King Richard literally 2 or 3 days before the Oscars. I watched King Richard just because I've been wanting to see it, and I turned on Hulu and it was there. And it is one of the best movies I've seen in the last year or two. It's one of the best movies I've seen, and I'm not even a tennis fan by far, but it's one of the best movies I've seen in the last few years.
Now let me ask you, speaking of that, because he did win an award for that movie, and a lot of people are saying that he has to he should give that award back. The Academy, the Oscar producers, the people who run the show should take the award back from him. Do you think that's deserved? Do you think he has to give that award back?
Oh God, no. I mean, shit. Go to freaking what's his name? The Harvey. Go to Harvey Weinstein. Take back all the freaking awards that his company has won. Like I agree with that because he was totally inappropriate for decades and got away with it. I mean, but that movie was amazing, and I didn't even know the backstory of the Williams sisters before. I mean, I watched tennis as a kid because my mom was into it, but like I never knew their backstory like that. And the fact that their father was like that protective and that like behind them the whole way, like telling them like you can do this, like you got this, like it's just amazing, and just the acting he put into that movie, like it's incredible. Like I told Harvey, I'm like, you need to watch King Richard. It may actually change your view on Will Smith a little bit.
You
I don't know
know,
if he actually has done it yet, but he's a busy man. He had,
I feel bad for this man. It really truly it's just like nobody's safe in this world no more. No matter how much you give back to your community, you help people give back. You know, one little incident could ruin all the hard work you've tried to achieve over years and years and years of blood, sweat, and tears. Because I'm
you
sure
can
his role wasn't easy.
you can
And
almost say I got in one little fight in the academy, got scared.
yeah. Don't make comments about my wife's hair. but
Yeah.
but let's talk a little more about the academy because this another thing that happened. A lot of people aren't talking about it, which I'm not that surprised. So I don't know if you know about this incident, but so Regina Hall, who's an actress, she's been in the industry for a long time too, and she was one of the hosts of the Oscars this year too. And one of her bits, she made COVID jokes. So she had Josh Brolin, a couple other stars that was nominated for awards on stage, and she was doing like this COVID bit where she was patting them down on stage and telling them that she got to take them to the back to, you know, check for further proof if they have COVID. It was sexually explicit. Joe was talking about, I gotta poke the back of your throat and stuff like that. And you could see a lot of these guys, one are older, so their wife's in the audience, their wife is probably watching if they're not there. And you could see that they're uncomfortable, but you see her touching them, rubbing them down, and filling up on them and making these racy jokes. And she didn't really get pushback for it. But like I said, it's a double standard because what if, let's say, well, let's say Chris Rock would have felt I wouldn't even put her in there, but let's say he felt the, five other women that was on stage and say, oh, I want to touch the back of your throat. So you have COVID.
Oh,
Let's go in the back,
canceled. He'd be canceled in a second.
you know, it's I me personally, I just say, if people want you canceled, they will get you. Like Will Smith is just I thought after a week, people, the jokes would die down, people will leave the man alone. But now you got executives at major studios looking at him sideways. And at first I thought it was fake too. I'm sure a lot of people did, and I'm sure some people still think it was staged, but it, you can tell when studios start getting involved, when people start pulling plugs on future projects, projects that you have coming out there, holding on to it because they don't know if they want to put it out. Um, it's real stuff, and um, it's it's unfortunate, man. Like that one mistake, you lose your cool. And the ironic thing about this whole thing, about the whole Will Smith thing too, is people have been making fun of him over the years, memes making jokes about him, Jada and August, and they're still doing it to this day. The same thing that made him upset and frustrated to begin with, um people still doing it, and people don't see the irony that they're doing the exact same thing that led up to this incident. And I don't blame Will, because you know what? There's only so much a human can take. And I think people forget that, no matter how much money you make, how many accolades you win, how many movies you've starred in, you're still a human being.
Yep.
And, to see constantly people making fun of your kids, your marriage, infidelities in your relationship, making memes about you. Most of the jokes is about Will. Now people are making jokes about, oh, Tupac is the true love of her life, and you know Will Smith is a simp, which I'm not gonna get into that part. But i- i- people are hypocritical, and like I said, it's only so much you could poke a bear. Look at all the people who's been bullied in high school, middle school. Eventually, at some point, they lash out at the bully, and some people, they might take it on the wrong person because they was already at that breaking point and they snapped. But you can't keep making jokes about people, and a lot of the jokes aren't funny to someone of Will Smith's caliber. This man has cried on his wife's platform over this incident, people making fun about it, making fun of him. So um hopefully, he just realizes he gotta keep his marriage out of it. And I but knowing Jada, that's
It's
probably not gonna happen.
if he's smart, he'll leave her. If he's smart, I honestly think he should leave her.
Thank you for tuning into another episode of the most entertaining podcast of all time. And thank you to all my fans, supporters, and listeners around the world. Whether you're from a small town in Utah, to Los Angeles, to Sweden, to Finland, to Russia, thank you. Because with your support, we have become one of the most top rated podcasts on Spotify in 2021. So thank you all for all your contribution and listening to this podcast. And I also got to mention one thing, just one thing. If you want to donate or contribute to this podcast, you can go to anchor.fm/the Prince of Fresh Air, which is in the links, and it's my main platform. And you can go to listener support, and you could donate anywhere from 50 cents to 10 grand. I'm not judging. But thank you guys for an amazing year, 2 years into this, and it's all because of you. So thank you, and let's get right back to the action, shall we?
He should have done it years ago. When as soon as she said, "I'm having extramarital affairs," he should just been, "Bye, Felicia." Like he should have just been gone. Like your kids will understand. I'm sure they will. They were old enough at that point that they'd understand. I mean, his kids are a whole nother story completely. But
Oh yeah, don't even get me started.
but I mean, like the fact that I mean, Fresh Prince of Bel Air alone, the original series. I was trying to convince my fellow co-host of this here in chat a few months ago. It introduced white kids like me from the suburbs into the struggles that black culture faces. Because
Mhm.
I didn't even really know the name Malcolm X until I heard it on Fresh Prince. Because I wasn't at that point in school yet where they teach you about that type of stuff. And even when they do, they mention the name, but they really don't go into them because it's schools. curriculums are horrible. But I mean, and then he takes that show that was one of the funniest shows I think ever on TV, and he brings it back, but he makes it so different. He keeps all the names the same, but he makes it so different and so dynamically like more appropriate for today's world. Like, have you seen Bel? Have you well before I get into it, have you seen Bel Air, like the new show on Peacock?
I've heard good things about it. I haven't watched it yet though.
Well, let me just put it to you this way: Carlton Banks does cocaine and has a problem with it.
I did hear about that.
And like Hillary, they made Hillary not a dumbass, and they actually made her like someone who's trying to be, who actually can cook and is trying to be an influencer and is trying to make something of her life, which is completely opposite of the original series. And that's what a lot of the people have problems with the original series, is because they made her look dumb, and they basically made black women look dumb because of her, which I mean is not true, obviously. I mean, there's so many black women I've met that I respect and have all the more power for. Like they do what they do. Like they're strong women usually.
Yeah, but you know what though, it was a. Sometimes it's hard to, because I watched the interview with Jabari, the guy who got casted as well. I have a friend who's good friends with him, so it's one of those things where with this show they didn't want to directly. First of all, you can't remake the Fresh Prince of Bel Air.
No, it's a classic. It's a classic. You can't.
Yeah, well, Carlton and Uncle Phil and Vivian, like you just can't recreate Jeffrey the Butler. You can't recreate the cultural impact, and God rest
James Avery.
Yeah, what such a wonderful actor. He was amazing, incredible.
Just his acting was beyond like that for that era. He was just one of the greatest actors. Like I literally compare the greatest fathers in TV. It literally goes Archie Bunker, Philip Banks, Red Foreman. Like that literally is like the three greatest fathers in TV.
I don't know the other two. I know Philip Banks. So
Archie Bunker, All in the Family.
I never watched that. I think that was before my time a little bit.
It was before my time too, but I mean, I used to watch it, reruns of it all the time because it's one of the funniest shows ever, and it made so many other shows come out like the Jeffersons and stuff. Like it made like Jeffersons came from All in the Family. Like so, like he it was a racist show, like because it was the time. Like they would say things on there that you can't say on TV nowadays, but he also promoted black actors to like have their own shows. Like it helped push black actors into the mainstream. So it may have been racist, the show itself, but behind the scenes, they were helping equality go forward. And Red Foreman's from that 70s show. You can't tell me you haven't seen that 70s show. That's your time.
No, I never watched that show. I never. I because for me growing up, I only saw the Fresh Prince of Bel Air. I'm getting my podcast name confused with that, but I only watched the show because my older brother used to watch it at night. So when I used to stay up, I used to watch it. But I grew up mostly on the Disney Channel stuff, like Corina House, Hannah Montana, and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I was a Nickelodeon kid, so yeah. I mean, there's three types of kids from our generation: Nickelodeon, Cartoon Network, or Disney. You watch one of those networks, you usually didn't go back and forth. Like that's
I did go back and forth. I did watch. Well, when I was young, before I became a teenager, I did watch a lot of Cartoon Network. And then I bounced around Nickelodeon once in a while, but I mostly watched Disney Channel. So I was more of a Disney Channel guy for sure.
See, I can never get into Disney Channel. It was too like I don't know. I don't even know what to call it, but it was too like mushy gushy stuff for me at that age. Like even when I was a teenager, I was still watching I would still rather turn on Jimmy Neutron or Fairly Odd Parents and laugh my ass off at the dirty jokes they throw into that. But I mean, and that 70s show was one of the greatest shows of the late 90s, early 2000s. Like it launched so many careers. It's just like Ashton Kutcher, Mila Kunis, the guy who played Venom and
Hardy, Tom Hardy.
No, the guy who played Venom in Spider-Man 3, the Tobey Maguire one.
Topher
Grace.
Yes.
And like it launched those three careers so far, and like especially like Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis, like it made them huge celebrities, and they just exploded out of that show into their own little like celebrity world. And they're actually bringing it back, and they're doing that '90s show with the parents, Red and Kitty Foreman, coming back, and it's supposed to be the grandkids of it's supposed to be the kids of the original kids.
You know, you know, although I didn't watch all the classics, I have watched some remakes like the That's So Raven remake and a couple other ones. And it's just not the same because now we live in a society where, don't get me wrong, some shows, yes, a reunion, possibly maybe a remake, for the new generation who really didn't grow up on watching these shows, who might, want to see what the show was about, kind of. But
Did you
this,
watch the Fresh Prince reunion? I gotta ask.
oh yeah,
The fact, see that right there just proves how good a man Will Smith is, because he brought the original Aunt Viv back and into that reunion and said to her like, "I'm sorry, I was a dumb kid at that point. I didn't realize you were having issues outside of the set. Like I couldn't see it back then, and I'm sorry I just made them get rid of you so fast." Like, and let's be honest, the original Aunt Vivian is 10 times better than the second one they did.
yeah. Wait, let me, because there was two are you talking about, there was the light skin one and then the dark skin one? You talking
the
about?
the dark skin one's the original one that started the show and was on for like 3 or 4 seasons. And
I
then
liked her more. I liked her more than the
yeah,
second one.
the light skin one was good, but her and James Avery didn't have that like just that back and forth that the original did.
That
And
real
like
chemistry. Yeah.
it made it seem like they were a real married couple in real life. Like that's what it seemed like. Like they just had that chemistry. Yeah, that chemistry. That's the best word for it. They had that chemistry where it's just like when they fight, you feel like it's actually the way a couple fights.
Man, I watched that reunion and
Oh, I
um
I teared up. Like it was literally one of those like Facebook postings like I'm not crying, you're crying.
I
Like I teared up. Like and the fact that Will still admits he can't do the Carlton dance. I love that.
oh, I'm sure a lot of people that Carlton was very underrated in that show, very underappreciated for sure. But that scene that he always talks about, everybody knows when he did the scene with James Avery talking about his father, why he don't want me, man, like that right
Oh,
there. Whew, like
I
just
I actually
hear,
was
yeah.
sorry. I was actually unemployed during COVID. And while I was like applying to 60, 70 jobs to try to get a job, I was rewatching Fresh Prince every morning while I was replying to jobs on my phone because I could do both at the same time because I've seen all the Fresh Prince before. And like when I got to that episode, oh, I still like a tear starts rolling at that point every time. Like just and the fact that you found out later it was unscripted, that like he was supposed to just like blow it off and be like, oh well, I'm the man. I could live without it. And but yet the fact that Will Smith's real life trauma came through and he just went off script and they kept it because it was such a moving moment.
man, and that's the beautiful thing about the reunion, because I know he shed light on that, and like I said, rest in peace to Uncle Phil. But he talked about that scene, like, and as an actor myself, I could appreciate it because James Avery, he was talking about how being on that show, he wasn't really an actor, he was more of a musician. He never really
He was a
uh
stage actor. He was a Broadway stage actor and he did a lot of Shakespeare and stuff like that. So like he didn't do like sitcoms. Like it wasn't that was not his jam at all. Like he was a Shakespearean trained actor and like I actually wish I could see him in some of the plays he did and stuff because I'm sure he blew it away. I could easily see him like mastering that craft.
oh yeah, and like for him to be open and honest about how he had trouble acting on set a lot of times. He would come in and really didn't memorize all his lines, and James Avery took him to that point, that scene he was having trouble with that scene conveying the emotion that they wanted him to, and James Avery pushed him to the point where they kept the cameras rolling, and he got him to that point where he could deliver that scene, and it made him feel that emotion. Like, James Avery was such a good actor, and to be able to mentor a young kid like that to deliver one of his, honestly, I don't care how many movies Will Smith do. I think that one scene in that movie is always a show. It's always going to be talked about because I just watched it a couple months ago. I saw it on Facebook. Someone was reposting it, and like I still get goosebumps watching it.
Yeah, you
Like,
tear up. You're just like I mean I can't like identify with it because I had a good father who was always there, which I'm grateful for because I know not everybody had that. I realized later in life, but I could still tear up over that scene because I can imagine what it would be like to not have my father around because he passed away in 2017. And so even when I watch it like since then, it's even more powerful because it's like I wish I could hug my dad like he hugged Uncle Phil. Like that's just one of the great things. Like that scene can bring out emotion in anybody. Like you could show someone who never watched Fresh Prince before in their life, and they would tear up at that scene and be like, "Oh my god, like that's good TV."
Oh man, that show is always gonna be special. And like I said, it was at an era where it wasn't like, as we talking about sitcoms and stuff. I do one of the things I always talk about, because I did an episode with my buddy about this. Like, shows involving black families back then was so much better than now. And don't get me wrong, I understand why they do the formula that they do in Hollywood with black families now. Like when you watch Power and all this stuff, is usually drugs, crime, and prison involved, and death. And it's like, I know people like these shows, and I'm not knocking it because my family, a lot of my family members love these shows. But like back then, to have a father figure like Uncle Phil, I didn't grow up with my dad because he ended up passing away when I was young, and I went to foster care. But to see a black father figure actually present, and trying to get him on the right path in life, that was such powerful stuff. And that's why I love the sitcoms back then, because it was all about uplifting the black family, opposed to now. They shoot
Yeah,
each other over some drug money. It's just it's crazy how times changed. But back then, man, the 90s, oof, good
yeah.
stuff, man. Good
I,
stuff.
I mean, even further back. I mean, you go back to the Cosby Show, and it was just a show about a black family that was there for each other constantly. I mean, yes, Bill Cosby did things that no one knew about behind the scenes, and we don't have to get into that if you don't
Oh,
want to.
oh,
But
oh. Wait, hold on, hold on. Let me first of all, let's be real here. I say this all the time about I'm not gonna, you know what? I'm gonna do it. I say this all the time, from Bill Cosby to R. Kelly to Harvey Weinstein to any other sexual predator in Hollywood. People know this stuff happens, but because when you get to a certain point in Hollywood, when you become famous and you're not demanding, people are demanding you. You know, I won't talk about that, but yeah.
yeah, well, I mean, I meant the general public didn't know what was going on really,
Oh,
because
oh,
yeah, because I mean, I'm sure people that worked on this show and people that knew Bill Cosby in Hollywood, like they knew what was going on. There's
oh,
no doubt.
oh
Like
yeah.
he had people that paid off people. There's no doubt. But I mean, and I mean, I've read the list on Wikipedia of like all the different like stuff that's out against him, and it's just like insane the amount of different times he's done stuff. Like he makes like freaking Epstein Island seem like nothing almost compared to him. I mean, it's just insane. And it's when that broke, I was so like horrified because I'm like, I used to love watching the Cosby Show and Fat Albert and all that. Like I loved all that stuff. And like he was like to me the perfect father like figure. And like he was just the man and the perfect father figure. But I mean, when that broke, I was just like, oh my God, are you serious? Like, what the fuck? Like he was such a good guy. It seemed like on TV, but it's TV. They can portray however they want to portray.
Oh, most definitely. And like, it's like, it's unfortunate that some of the most prominent people who create some of the best stuff end up doing the worst type of damage, and like like I said, it's sad that Will Smith is getting treated like Bill Cosby, and his crime wasn't even severely. It's like me getting 50 years in prison for having a joint in my back pocket, when somebody who murdered five underage kids, I got the same amount of time as me. Like that's what it seemed like to me. Like the punishment do not fit the crime at all.
Which,
But
of course, has sadly happened in history to several African American people. They just they get caught with the stupidest little thing, and they got the book thrown at them just because it was a racist judge or a racist lawyer or something. Like that's all it took back then, or even up till the '90s, 2000s. That's all it took. Like Like change is slowly coming, but it's change. Change is always slow. It'll be 100 years before we can ever actually get to close to equality.
Oh, like, and the reason why I had mentioned the Washington Post and a lot of these big websites and media companies calling Will Smith a thug and stuff like, it really goes to show to you when you're not in the good graces of people, how they actually view you, because you would never call somebody you admire or you know you enjoy what they do. You would never call somebody that. And like I said, the truth always comes to the light. The fact that they call him Will Smith, he is a black man, and they call him a thug, I- over one little slap, it really goes to show to you that we have a long way to go. You could say he didn't need to get violent, he needed to slap Chris Rock, that's fine. But calling him a thug and he acting like he's back in the projects, man, that's a little racist. But
I mean, even the fact that they're blowing out a portion, he slapped him. He didn't go up on stage and start just like talk. He didn't tackle him to the ground like a wrestling show and start like beating the crap out of him. Like he just slapped him. Like, yeah, you say something inappropriate, you get slapped. That's just the life lesson that everybody learns at some point. But I mean, the only reason it's such a big deal is because he's a celebrity. If it was some random person at a local award show, nothing would have come of it. Nothing. It would have been like in the local paper for a day and then forgotten about.
and the, like I said, nobody knew about the Oscars. The ratings has been tanked. Nobody watches it anymore. And yeah, Will Smith, the incident overshadowed the award show. But uh, people, Will Smith, he overtook other people's honor and award ceremonies for the movies that they did. But let's be real here. 85% of the people didn't know Oscars was happening before that slap went
No,
viral. So
I mean,
what do you mean?
I think I heard it was coming on that Sunday. I mean, I would never watch it because who gives a crap? Like you could look at the results the next day. Like, I'm not going to watch 3 hours out of my night just to watch that award show when I could look up the winners the next day. And plus, the simple fact that Samuel Jackson won a Lifetime Achievement Award and it wasn't even fucking televised. Like he won a Lifetime Achievement Award, and with everything else that's happening, people almost forgot about it. But yet, some people were started posting about it because that's one man that deserves to get recognized for what he's done in life. He's made so much money with his movies for different other people. He's been in over 100 movies, and he is just such an amazing freaking actor. I mean, Nick fucking Fury. He's such an amazing actor. Like he just, and the fact that they don't televise that is insulting. Like I'm not even African American, but I'm insulted by it because it's just horrible. He deserves that much. Like it should have been a him on the stage and getting applauded by everybody for that on TV.
You know what's crazy? And I just realized this after the whole incident. I never knew Will Smith never won an Oscar. I never knew that. Like this, that's his first Oscar.
Me, I never knew that either, but I could. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's kind of surprising because there are certain movies that he's done that I would think he could have won for. I mean, I Am Legend, The Upside. I mean,
Uh,
just to name a few. I can't really think. I mean, Men in Black. Even he could have won a freaking award for that movie. I mean, he really could have.
yeah,
But
it's
but that was a big year. That was a big year for movies, so I can see why he did. But
hey, I just say my whole point with the whole Will Smith thing for me is basically like it's already hard. First of all, being a black entertainer in general, let alone being at the peak that him, Denzel Washington, Samuel Jackson are at. Like that them three right there. I mean, those are role models to me. And maybe I'm a little biased, but I see it as these are three guys who had unblemished records for so long, and they always constantly come out with great movies. Denzel Washington, one of the greatest of all time. I mean, he's just Training Day. Come on, the smooth,
yeah, I mean,
charismatic guy he is, and I'm charismatic, but Denzel, like them three are some of the most hardworking, talented people um I've ever seen. And I always mention black actors because, like I said, you don't really see that kind of success especially with black entertainers without some type of controversy. And unfortunately, Will Smith is in some right now. But for many years, these guys were always in blockbuster movies back to back to back to back, constantly working, making tons of money, taking care of their family. You know, it's like I said, it's just I just hate how cancel culture has made it to the point where no, one little incident and all that time and effort you put into your career to entertain people, goes up in smoke like that. Like this dude, he'll be all right. I give it like a month or two, and people, cool
The,
down.
the the next major headline will come out that like, about a celebrity, and people will start forgetting about Will Smith slowly.
Hey,
That's the way.
let me mention this too, because someone made a point. It's like so the guy who played the Flash in the Justice League, Ezra Miller.
Yeah, Ezra Miller. Yeah,
Yeah, he was I think in March alone he was arrested 11 times for, I think, from disorderly conduct to, I think,
yeah.
assault in some cases. It's like,
I mean, he's got issues. I mean, you can look in his eyes and see he has issues.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
I've actually heard rumors the last few days online of Grant Gustin from the Flash TV show replacing him in the movies,
Honestly,
which I think would be a great thing because I think he's a better actor.
I'm surprised he didn't get cast. Well, no, I'm not surprised because
They
he
wanted to keep
probably.
it separate. They want to keep it separate.
But you know what though?
They
What?
shouldn't.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what's the point? And that
The
that's
Arrow the Arrowverse ratings have been going down since Arrow ended. Like they need to boost it back up, otherwise, because CW's for sale right now, and like the Arrowverse needs to like they need to do something with it to keep it going. Otherwise, it's all going to end. Or I mean, if HBO Max takes all the shows over, that'd be great. I'd be all for that because then they could make them grittier and darker, which is what DC should be.
Oh, I gotta say, HBO Max has been tearing the game up.
Oh,
You know,
Peacemaker, man, Peacemaker. That's all I gotta say.
I haven't watched the show yet, but I gotta
Oh
say,
my god.
seeing John Cena in Suicide Squad, he really did a good job. Like
Oh,
you
he
don't
does
really
even
see
better
that.
job. He does an even
Yeah,
better job in Peacemaker. Like, oh, like just the comedy of it and like the seriousness of it at the same time is just so good. Like it literally was the one show that in 2021 that I looked forward to watching every freaking week. Like it was on. Every week it was on. The minute I got home the day it came out, I put that shit on because it was just so good.
really.
All the actors on it.
Have you ever watched The Boys on Amazon
Yes,
Prime?
I actually just a couple weeks ago I finally finished catching up on that. I've been trying to watch it for years, and it just like it never worked because there was always kids around or something, and I couldn't do it at that moment. But I finally got to the point where I watched all two of the seasons, and I watched the anime series they put out too, and I love The Boys. Like it is, I cannot wait for the third season with Jensen Ackles as Soldier Boy.
Oh man, I love Jensen. Supernatural always is always going to be near
Oh
and dear to my heart. But talk
yeah,
about
so
gritty. That show, whew.
oh, I mean, just the first episode when when the freaking A Train freaking runs through his girlfriend. Just the first episode. I'm like that's how you start the series. I'm like, this show is gonna be good. And then you see freaking Peacemaker throw a bad guy like up in the air and let him land wherever the hell he lands. And it's just like, oh my god, this show is gonna be good. I mean, it's Kripke. Anything Kripke does, I love because he did Supernatural too. So I mean, anything he does, I'm all for. And actually, they just announced today they're doing a Lucifer spinoff from Supernatural
Really?
with, with the actor who played Lucifer. I forget his name always,
Oh,
but
Mark Petrigali or
Mark
something.
Pellegrino. Mark
Pel-
Pellegrino.
Pellegrino. Yeah.
I saw it in the freaking art in the YouTube video I was watching about it, and I just couldn't think of his first name, but yeah, like I love that. I love him as an actor. Like he was in another show. What the hell is it called? He was in a show about a vampire, a werewolf, and a ghost. And like, oh, what the hell is it called? It was on years ago. I forget what it's called, but oh, Being Human. He was on Being Human, and he was like the head vampire for like the first couple seasons. And he's just such a good actor. Like anytime I see him pop up in anything, I'm just like, oh, this is gonna be good.
Oh man, I love Supernatural. I've been watching that show since high school. I think 2011. And I've rewatched the show so many times it makes no
See,
sense.
my I got into it like right around 2011 too. Actually, like right around 2011, my best friend at the time and eventual roommate got me into it, and like he said like you would love this show. So like I started watching it. It took me years, but I got through it all and I caught up to like the current episode on TV, and I actually would watch it weekly then. But I never watched the whole series again because it's too much stuff and there's so many shows out there. Like it's too many episodes, and I'm not dedicating another half a year to that show. I can't. I love it, but I can't. Like there's just too. I always say too many shows, too little time.
Yeah. Oh, most definitely. But I do love like a lot of the subscription platforms like HBO Max, Amazon Prime. Like they taking a lot of these shows and making them more grittier because at some points, especially like Netflix, I love Netflix. They give a lot of new actors opportunities, but some of these platforms are becoming a little more politically agendaed
Mm,
and
yeah, I see it.
I I want to get too involved in that, but I love that they're making the shows more edgy, making superhero shows more cool, little different. It's not so PG. You get like the boys. Oh, like the
Oh,
sex scenes that they doing in there, the
I
race.
just the fact that in the first episode of The Boys, like they literally approached the topic of sexual assault at work when the deep like makes her go down on him like because she just says she's a fan of him and he just takes full advantage of it and makes her do something and like threatens her if she doesn't. Like just the fact they did that and then they did the whole storyline where she went public with it and like he got in trouble for it actually. Like the fact that they did the bad thing and then they got the redemption all in one show, it just shows what the world needs to do. Like it encourages people to come out when they're in situations like that and like speak about it. And that's just a great thing for any TV show to do.
Yeah. It's, as an actor, I'm just excited for the possibilities of just different things. It's got to the point where now, there's so many ways to make impactful shows. And I want to be involved in more like the action genre, like the superhero realm. And like just seeing that how much they get to have fun and play around with the characters and like the boys is you taking the warm up version of Superman but making him like a villain. You get to have fun with that, being the almighty powerful guy and being able to be a villain uh as well. Like it's just so cool. Like it's a lot of TV shows now are doing a really good job with casting and being progressive in some natures. You see more diversity and representation, which is always a plus. But they're making it also too where it's entertaining, it's fun. You don't feel
Oh
like
God, yeah.
agenda's getting forced down your throat, even though it's happening. But yeah, Supernatural, I love. I just started uh watching Peacemaker. I watched one episode last night, so I got a
Oh,
long ways to go. But I'm gonna watch it while I'm home. So hopefully, how many episodes was out with that? Do you know?
I want to say 8 or 9, maybe 10 max. I mean, because most streaming shows nowadays are only doing like 8 episodes a season, like 6 to 8 episodes a season. Like, which I understand why they're doing that because they're basically giving you like like either a movie or like 2 movies in a season, kind of. But I mean, that's what it breaks down to at least. But I also kind of don't like that because it's like, come on, at least Supernatural gave us 22, 24 episodes a season.
Yeah. Oh man,
Like, I
I'll
mean,
always love that show, man. Good. That is
oh,
such a
anytime,
good show.
yeah, there's the one Jess, the one girl, the one co-host on Bracket Bastard. She like Jensen Ackles is her hall pass with her husband. Like she loves Jensen Ackles. Like she thinks he's the sexiest man alive, which she's not alone. I know tons of girls who feel the same way. But I mean, but it's just funny because anytime I see a meme or like a cut scene from Supernatural on Facebook, I'll just immediately like send a messenger, send a group, and like she just always dies over it. Like it's just there's so many good moments in that show. I could literally spend hours just reminiscing on the good memories of that show. But
Right. Yeah.
it just was one of the best well done shows like in the last 20 years.
I gotta say, and I was telling my girlfriend about this. Like Jensen Ackles was definitely the best actor on that show. Don't get me wrong, Sam was great. Castillo, I loved Castillo. He did an amazing job in that show. Lucifer, I mean Jim Beaver,
Oh,
Bobby.
Jim Beaver is classic.
Oh man, I felt bad that they killed them all so early, but
It wasn't that. I mean, they did, but it wasn't that as early as they could have. Like they almost killed him off a couple times before that, and like they decided to not do it the last moment. But he was one of the producers on the show, so like it's just funny because like when they did the whole episode where like they go to like be their real selves, like they get to go be their real selves, and like they're watching, they're like, what kind of idiot, what kind of asshole puts himself in his own show? Because it's like, but I mean, it's hilarious. Like that show was so great. Like I wish I got into it like in 2005 when it started and just actually watched it all the way through when it like as it was on. Like the fact I had to catch up like 6 or 7 seasons was like, oh, I wish I had it like slow through the years like everybody else did that started from the beginning.
yeah, I think the first time I watched it, I think I was in middle school around 2008, 2009. Um, that was the show. When I used to when I had no school and I was home, my mom, my brother used to just have that on TV all day until Law and Order came on. So that's how I started getting involved. And then when I went to college, that's when I rewatched it from season one because I never watched it in order. I would just catch it on when I was, at
Yeah,
home with the family. But then I watched it throughout, and I'm so glad. Season 15, the end of the episode was kind of hilarious. The wig job that they did on Sam and trying to make him look older, it was kind of terrible. I'm like, it was a little cheesy. It's like, yeah, it could have put a little more effort in it, but the ending was, I
yeah.
mean, them both in heaven and with baby and just driving on down the highway and then having everybody show up at the end. Oh man, it was such a great show, you
They
know.
did what so many TV shows fail to do, and they gave a good end. So many TV shows screw the ending up and they make it worse. Game of Thrones, Sopranos. I mean, so many good TV shows like which I haven't watched. I never actually watched either of those. I mean, I know about them only because of they're popular, but I mean, but the endings and just those and a couple other shows were just like, really, like that's how you're gonna end like one of the greatest shows in the last like five, in like at that time in the last 5 years, like that's been like the most popular show, and you end it horribly. Like Sopranos, the ending is a screen going black, so you don't see what happens. It's like, oh, come on. Like people have been watching your show for this many years and you're just gonna let them down like that. It's a joke. It's a
I
joke.
I don't know why, but a lot of shows go out like that. They just I think they probably get to a point where they just like, you know what, no matter what the ending is, people are gonna complain. So might as well just roll the credits, fade to black, and get the hell out of here. But the cool thing about Supernatural is that they can get away with a lot of stuff, which is why a lot of episodes are so great. Like I think it was season 7 where they did actual spoof of the show. Like you got to see the set, even though
Oh
they
yeah,
made
that
it seem like it was an alternate universe.
yeah, that's the one I was talking about where like they see like the credits roll up on the screen on the set and they're like, what kind of asshole uses his own real name in the show when he's a producer?
Oh man, and then Kripke getting shot at towards the end of the show. I mean, it was such a good show, and like the ending. I mean, of course, no, everybody's not gonna like it, but the cool thing about Supernatural is that show, you don't need to build any type of backstory to get them involved or to return, because I know they do want to return at some point in the future to maybe do a season 16 when they're a little older. But that show right there, I mean, they could just pick on where they left off with Jack coming back and just bringing them back to life, and they can go back to kicking ass
Yeah,
and taking names.
it could be the world needs you again. The world needs you again. So I'm bringing you back because you guys need to save the world once more. And I could see like Dean's face being like, "Oh, come on," as he's like stuffing pie in his mouth or something. Because in heaven he is a pantry full of pies.
Oh, you already know. And Bobby calling them idiots and drinking his beer and his alcohol, having a good old time.
Oh, I love it in the one freaking episode where it's just, and like I see this on Facebook all the time. The one meme where it's like Bobby's like, And like Dean's like, Bobby, you built a safe room? And he's like, Bobby's like, what? I had a free weekend. And Dean's just like, you're awesome.
Man, that's one show I wish, because that show mostly happened when I was still in my early stages of my career. But that's one show I wish I could have been a part of, because that's
Oh
one
God, yeah.
show I will admit they did an amazing job with casting. They took, whether they were kind of famous already, or under the table talent that nobody knew about, but they did such a good job casting. Like, everybody had their moments of shine and glory.
Yeah.
Like, even Jim Beaver, even after they took him out the show, everybody loved him. And like, the fan base is I mean, one of the best, most I would say present fan bases I've ever seen of a show. Like, they show up everywhere. Like,
Oh
it's
yeah. I mean, super. It's between Supernatural, I say, and like Star Trek. Like those are the two most biggest fan bases for a single like a TV show.
oh yeah,
Like,
most definitely.
I
I
mean,
never watched Star Trek, but
I start I started watching the original series a while back. I almost got to the end of it, but I got distracted by some other news show that came on. So of course I switched over and never got back to it. But I mean, but like too many shows, too many time, man. I mean, now that I'm out of work for 2 weeks, I've been trying to watch like classic Doctor Who on BritBox because I started watching classic Doctor Who from like the 60s and 70s, like back in 2011 on Netflix DVDs when they used to actually send the DVDs to your house,
oh
and
geez.
like reading the books for some of the episodes because the film was destroyed like in the UK back in like the 80s or 70s, something like that. Like their warehouse with all the film stored in it got like fire and just burned down. So they couldn't recover a lot of episodes, but luckily people recorded them at home and they were able to recover them from that way. But I mean, it's just, and that's like 30 years of television right there. I'm trying to catch up on is Doctor Who. That's 30 years of fucking television. And that's not even counting the new series that's already been on for 10 years.
I've heard about Doctor Who. I never got a chance to watch it, but I've heard a lot of good things about it.
It's
You
just,
know.
it's great because the doctor could change, like the actor playing the doctor changed so many times, but they did a good way of making it happen. They explained it good and made it like a very realistic thing where they can be like, yeah, like, oh, they need to change because of this. So, but I mean, it's just, and there's so many different alien species and so many different like different storylines. It's just amazing. And it's funny. Like to watch the old 60s, 70s stuff now, it's just funny because it's just like you can tell like what they did when they shot it. Like, oh, he's running away from a monster, but it's the same hallway. He's running back and forth. You could tell he's running back and forth in the same hallway, and there's like have two cameras on each side. But it's hilarious. It's hilarious. Like just the facial expressions and the acting back then in British TV was hilarious. And like it's such it literally is one of the best TV shows ever made. Like, and the fact that it's the longest running TV show ever. Like it's been on continuously basically for 50, 60 years now, I think.
Oh gee,
It's
yeah, I know that show's been on for a long time. I never watched it, but I know that show's been. Whew, talk about long running. You
it's
know,
in the Guinness Book of World Records for it.
I did hear about that. I did hear about that. I'm surprised I haven't watched it before. I'm
I
actually
mean,
surprised.
I've heard a lot of people who grew up with the original, like they say they don't like the new one because it's too different. Like they changed too many things about it, and that they changed the theme song. That's the biggest thing I've heard is that they changed the theme song. And I know you never watched it, but once if you ever hear the original theme song, like you'll be like, why would they change this? Like it's so simple but so amazingly classic.
They do that a lot with shows though. It's because a lot of times if the director changes or executives decide they want to freshen up the show. Because I've noticed that with some of like the classics that I watched like a decade ago when I was, a little kid. Like I watch some of these shows now and it's like I don't know why they changed the formula. It was so good, but when you get different creative people in the room and or the executives of the actual studio decide they want to change things up, add a little freshness to it,
They
it's
want to be
unfortunate
different.
that they do it, but
They want to be different. They want to get their name on it and like have people say like, "Oh, they did this." Some people are going to like it and say it's better. Some people are going to like it and say it's worse. But or some people are not going to like it and say it's worse. But I mean, they just want to put their own spin on it to differ themselves from the original. The only
uh,
show I could say that didn't do that ever was Full House and Fuller House. Like they kept that tone the exact same throughout. And
Mm-hmm.
I I love that they did that because I used to watch that show growing up all the time and I loved it. It was a funny show back then. I mean, John Stamos is the freaking man. So was Bob Saget, R.I.P. That was sad as hell. I mean, even Dave Coulier, who has had issues in recent years in like celebritydom, but I mean, that show was just classic. It was a good, heartwarming family TV show, and they brought it back on Netflix, and they did an amazing job bringing it back and making it good for the next generation.
Oh man, I such
And
such
plus,
I yeah,
those
yeah.
girls got hot. Those girls got hot.
Oh, it's as time went on, some people, unfortunately took the worst. It's one of the unfortunate things about childhood and teen actors is either they grow up and become uh you know working actresses who they just get better with time, and then unfortunately you got
The Olsens go bad.
that that talk about a rough 30. What did he, 33 or something? Talk
And they look
about,
like they look like they're 80.
yeah, that's rough, man. That's rough.
Yeah, I
Oof.
mean, but like it's just funny because like I went from watching Jodie Sweetin as a kid on Full House, and then one day I'm flipping around channels in bed late at night in high school, and I see her on Pants Off Dance Off hosting it, and I'm like, what the fuck is she doing?
Gotta earn a paycheck.
I know, but talk about one of the most outrageous shows ever. Like, and that's it. It's not even talked about now anymore. But Pants Off Dance Off was just literally people getting paid to strip down to their underwear on TV while dancing.
Hey,
I mean, I was all for it when the girls were on, but I don't know why the hell they did throw guys on there too. I'm like, what are you doing? This is the ugliest man in the world. You have him stripping on TV.
equality, man. You got to balance it out.
Yeah, I know, but no
I'm
girl
not
wants to see
watching
that
it,
either. No,
but
no girl wants to see half these guys either.
don't even get me started. I know I'm not trying to see that.
No, I mean, God, it's like watching freaking George Costanza modeling in his underwear on freaking Seinfeld. It's like it's funny, but I'm like, do I really need to see this?
No. Oh my goodness. Oh, good, man. Such good shows, such good classics, and it's always good to see a lot of these actors from back then, being able to have successful careers. It's unfortunately, like I said, some of them they get wrapped up in the Hollywood style and turn to drugs and alcohol, whatever the case may be. And a lot of them don't, like Amanda Bynes, Lindsay
Yep.
Lohan, so many, Orlando Brown from Disney Channel, like
Oh,
so many.
I know who Orlando Brown is. I mean, shit, he was in a lot of movies I watched.
Major
Freaking
Pain. You've
wasn't
seen a
Major Pain. I have that's see, this is one of the things they make fun of me for on Bracket Bastards is I am infamous for not seeing a lot of movies that were big when I was a kid to a teenager, just because I was so into cartoons that in those years that I didn't really like go to watch like movies that were big that were like meant for adults, but kids at that time still watched them. Like, I mean, yeah, I saw all the Jim Carrey, Adam Sandler movies, like obviously Robin Williams, but like a lot of the other movies like Major Pain, like they gave me shit because I just watched Princess Bride like 2 weeks ago for the first time, and like everybody in my podcast loves that movie. They think it's a classic, and I'm like, I never seen it. And they're like, what? Like, how could you not see that? And I'm like, but at the same time, they're hating on me. They hate on Star Wars at the same time. And I'm like, oh, go go sit on a fucking broom and rotate. You don't like Star Wars. Who the hell doesn't like Star Wars?
I I plead the fifth.
Don't tell me you haven't seen
I,
Star Wars either.
oh no, I've seen a lot of, because one of my college buddy, good friend of mine, him and his sister, they love Star Wars, so I've been to the movies a couple times. I watched it on TV with them. I don't hate the Star Wars. I mean, I'm not gonna turn it on if I'm by myself, but I can see why it's a cult, has a cult following, and
Oh,
you
it's
know
just I mean, it's just it kind of got the same vibe as Supernatural does, like that basic overall element of good versus evil. That's what it is. Just good versus evil and how it changes throughout the years.
that's the written, that's the form that I don't care nobody say, whether you watch from WWE to sports to TV shows. The good versus bad is always gonna win.
I mean,
That's just the winning formula right there. You always have to have a good and a bad,
there's a reason the Bible is the best selling book ever, because it's the original form. It's the original thing that had that formula.
Exactly.
And I mean, I'm agnostic, so like I don't believe in any religion strictly. I know about them all. I studied them all and stuff, and I'm open to hearing about them all. But I ain't never gonna say I believe anything till I see something. But I mean, yeah, it's like the Bible is the greatest book ever written because it's just an epic book of good versus evil, and like it's basically, I mean, supernatural is basically just the Bible. I mean, it's all it is. Like
Technically, yeah, that's true.
like
Technically.
they may spin a few things a little further than they did in the Bible, or add some words than they did in the Bible, just because you can. Because who knows if the Bible is? I mean, I compare the Bible to Harry Potter because it's a good book, but it's not. I don't believe it's real in 100%. I mean, I'm not gonna get into it here because that's a whole nother conversation. But
Oh, that is true right there. But we've been having such a good conversation, and I wanted to ask you, what is the future like? For you, what is your ultimate goal? Like, with your podcast, and of course, you have the family life and everything. Like, where do you see yourself going with your podcast and stuff like that? Do you have any vision that
well,
you want to?
here's the thing: we started Bracket Bastards back in. We recorded the first. We recorded the first non-recorded episode back in. I think it was November.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was November because I moved to my first house back in November, and it was right after I moved to my first house. We recorded the first episode that we didn't really record, but and since then I am now starting my own paranormal podcast called Paranormal: The New Normal, which is going to be an interview type format where just I talk to everyday people about their experiences with the paranormal, and I ask them the questions that a lot of people want to ask them, but they don't like to. A lot of people who experience this stuff don't like to talk about it because they don't feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make them feel comfortable enough to talk about it and open up. And if it gets emotional, great. If it gets funny, great, even better. But if it leads to them being able to live their lives and understand their lives a little better after something tragic happened because of that, I'm all for that. And I'm at the same time, I don't want to say the names, but I'm also auditioning for 2 other podcast / video shows that I'm trying to get on. So I'm basically trying to get my name out there 100%. And they tell, like, the guys in my podcast tell me, get your voice out there. You have a voice people need to hear. You have opinions people need to hear. And like, I just want to get out there and and let people hear me. And I think it could be a future. I mean, profitable, maybe, who knows, but I'm not counting my eggs for the hatch.
Oh man, that's well said. And you know, you've been one of the best guests I have because you speak and you engage and entertain. And I think that's especially when it comes to podcasts, that's very important. Because I say all the time, like some podcasts, people they just talk like this the whole time, and it's like,
No,
huh? Like, no, imagine being in a car ride for an hour and nobody wants to hear that. You want to have an entertaining conversation, and people can eh, feel engaged and have fun. I imagine it when you're in the car and you're bored and you put on a podcast. Do you want something entertaining and engaging, or do you want something that's like, yeah, man, I had, macaroni and cheese for dinner. Ha ha ha.
no. I
Nobody
mean,
wants.
we literally have had, like, other my co-hosts on Bracket Bastards have had people who they know listen to our show, and they've literally said, like, I had to pull over my car. I was laughing so hard. I had to pull over on the side of the road because I couldn't stop laughing, and I felt like I was going to get an accident if I kept driving. And
That's
like we're uncensored. We're not minivan friendly, but we will entertain you to the fullest because we have like, we never met each other before this podcast. We still haven't met each other in person. Most of us, the majority of them live in Iowa. They know each other personally. They've seen each other in person. But one of us I live in Massachusetts. The other one lives in Florida. We've never met each other in person. So I mean, it's just, but we click. Like, even my brother said, you guys sound like you know each other for years. The first episode, but it just happened to be just perfect match of personalities, and it works.
and that's the bottom line because Jeremy Bryant says so. I had to steal that from Stone Cold.
Oh, I'm all for that. And I heard he's done Vince at WrestleMania, and I wish I could see that again.
He actually had his his officially final match on Saturday. So, he came, opened up a can of whoop ass, drunk beer throughout the whole match, and it was good to see him. Now I'm not gonna lie, I didn't grow up during his time, but well, I didn't watch him when I was
Oh,
growing
I
up,
did.
but
I when I first started watching wrestling, he was out on injury after he got hit by the car that Rikishi ended up driving. But which when that's not true at all, but whatever. And like so like I when he came back, I got to see his like final like real years in wrestling, and like just the fact that the Undertaker finally got in the Hall of Fame is something I've been waiting for years, because that was my wrestler for the whole Attitude Era and for the whole. I didn't like him as the American Badass. I wasn't the biggest fan of him in their that phase because I thought that was kind of stupid. But when he came back again as like the phenom, like the dead man, like like every wrestling video game I ever played, that was my theme song, was his theme song.
Man,
Or well, okay, that's not true. Or Mr. Ass. Because that's just I actually got my WWE the Music Volume 4 CD taken away when I was a kid, because I would sing that song out loud all the time.
the Attitude Era was such a wild time. Like I was just watching. There's like a couple YouTube channels dedicated to the Attitude Era, and they post a bunch of clips, and like it's crazy, man. Like I mean, of course, the WWE is never going to be the same like it was back then, because it's PG, is more corporate. So
I heard AEW is getting close. I heard AEW is getting close.
It's
I mean, I never.
AEW's. It's like, for me, I compare it. It's like see, I'm a UFC guy, so it's like comparing Pride or Bella, if you know MMA, but it's like comparing
I do to some
Pride.
degree, yeah.
It's like comparing Pride or Bellator to UFC. Is AEW. I wish them well. Not I the only thing for them I wish they would stop doing is try to compare themselves, because WWE don't really mention them. They rarely bring them up. They don't talk about them. It's just like, you do your thing.
But yet
Kudos to
they're
you.
getting all the stars of the Attitude Era that are still wrestling. They're getting them on AEW. I mean, the Hardy Boys, like I think Christian went there, didn't he? Like,
yeah. Oh yeah. Chris Jericho. They got a bunch of the old WWE. But do you want to become? It becomes then. Do you want to become the company that only gets the old heads from WWE who, you know? I mean, I'm not here to knock them. I think that they have the niche, and they have their fan base, and I wish them all the well. But I feel like a lot of times, because I'll tune in once in a while, see what they're up to. But every time I tune in, they talking about the WWE. They trying to compare themselves to the WWE, and it's like the WWE has been such a global phenomenon for so many years. It's going to take them at least 20, 30 years to even be in the conversation with them, to even be considered. So
and that's if the McMahons don't buy him out by then.
exactly. Oh, if Tony Khan and them decide they don't want to pull a plug, because eventually, Chris Jericho and them is going to retire, and then are they going to just keep picking up guys that got fired from the WWE? It's just,
I mean, it's not like there's a lack of those.
Yeah, true. But do you want to become that place that only gets the has-beens, or the people that couldn't cut it? I'm not saying all of them. That's not 100% true, but again, you bringing in a bunch of 55-year-olds that should be enjoying retirement, to come wrestle. It's just, I love Sting, but I'm yeah, I would hate to see the Undertaker in AEW. I would hate to see that. I don't think he will, because his loyalty is so
WWE,
to Vince, and Vince. But
he's one of the few people who actually doesn't have anything bad to say about Vince most of the time.
Oh no, everybody respects the Undertaker. If you don't, something's wrong with you. Everybody loves the Undertaker.
Mark Calloway is one of the greatest wrestlers ever. Like, I have no problem saying that. Like, he is up there in legend. Like, he's better than Hulk Hogan in my mind. He's better than Andre the Giant. Like, he put it all in for 30 years, except for the few times he was injured, and nothing you could do about that. That happens. But he just put it all out there, and he gave a show that people wanted to watch. I mean, he just gave a show people wanted to watch. I mean, he gave a platform for all the kids who were goth and emo that wanted like someone they could like relate to in wrestling. He gave them like a platform.
Oh yeah, Mark Calloway, his dedication to the character, and just being able, just giving back to whenever WWE needed him to show up for kids or whatever. I mean, don't get me wrong, a lot of stars do it. I'm not, but he's always stuck true to his character. And I mean, eventually in this day and age, it's hard to stay in that character for so long, especially at his age when he's nearing retirement. Now he's retired, but that character, that man's always going to be legendary. I mean, it's like Stone Cold. Certain characters you will never be able to duplicate, no matter how much you try, no matter how much you try to rinse and repeat the formula. You can't get that magic back. You can't get that personality, that energy that
No,
these
I
people
mean,
brought.
there'll never be another. There'll never be another DX. There'll never be another Ministry of Darkness. Like, just the greatest years of wrestling are 20 years behind us, and they'll never come back.
Oh
I can
no.
never come back. I mean, the 98 to 2002 till the WCW invasion, like even that was a great moment in wrestling history. That whole event storyline, WCW invasion, ECW invasion, whatever you want to call it, but that was a great storyline too. But like, you'll never get that again. Even if AW and TNA get bought out by WWE, it'll never be the same thing.
Not a shot. And you know what? I look for eventually WWE had to it's hard. I know people like to compare, and I do it too, but you know what? It was a different time. They was able to get away with different things, and now it's become more of a family friendly show where you can sit down with your 5 year old, child, and just have fun on a Monday or a Friday night, with the kids, and
Yeah, I
just
mean,
have a good time.
oh, I mean, yeah, we all saw things as kids back then that we shouldn't have seen because of wrestling. Like I got detention a couple times for doing the suck it motion in class.
Oh, we all did.
Oh, I mean, hell yeah. I mean, freak. The things I would say to girls in my class just because Triple H said to Stephanie or something, or like just because The Rock said to China.
I remember one time when I was in gym class, I was a big Chris Benoit fan before the tragedy, but I remember I put a kid in a cripple lacrosse face in gym class. I'll never
Oh,
forget that. Because we was wrestling, we was just having fun. But I
yeah,
put him in a cripple lacrosse face. He put me in the ankle lock, and I think at one point he tried to do the tombstone power driver, but
oh
I
yeah,
was not going for that. Nope.
no, because I mean, I love that move, but if you're gonna do that with your friends, it's a little gay.
Yeah, and you can end up like Kurt Angle with a broken freaking neck.
That too, or I mean, oh, don't even get me started on Kurt Angle. All I think about when I hear Kurt Angle is The Rock's freaking promo. I'm gonna go drink some milk and masturbate. Like, that's all I think of when I hear about Kurt Angle is that promo by The Rock, like before the Armageddon 2000, like Hell in a Cell, like, when he made fun of all five of them. Like, that was just hilarious. Like, I mean, I hated The Rock back then, but now I appreciate what he did. Like, I look back and I'm like, oh, he was so funny.
Oh, him and Stone Cold at their height,
I mean,
nobody could touch it. Like they had the crowd in the palm of their hands anytime. The moment the music hit, even before the music hit, people.
yeah. I
I
mean,
mean,
those two, Undertaker and Triple H, to me, that's the like those are the four horsemen of wrestling in the greatest era. Those are
oh
the four.
yeah,
They were involved in every major storyline, and they did a great job doing it.
they killed it. Attitude Era, one of the most beloved eras of all time. And unfortunately, I mean, that's never going to come back because time has changed and it's become publicly traded and
And the
it's not.
and the world's turned into fucking pussies, and they couldn't
Uh,
take it. Cancel culture would hit wrestling faster than ever if that came back.
Man, Stone Cold would not survive in today's era, unfortunately.
None of them would. I mean, freaking the only one who might survive because he was ahead of his time is Goldust.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah,
I mean,
Undertaker
but
too, but
I mean, but yeah, he would survive because he never got really dirty with things usually. But I mean, he has few moments, but he never got really dirty with things, and he never did anything that would cancel culture would hate on. But I
yeah,
mean, you can't do DX again. You never could. You can't do half the stuff The Rock said. You can't do half the stuff that Triple H said to Stephanie or that Triple H said to China, like on or even the whole Edge and Lita in the middle of the ring thing, like in bed. Like, you couldn't do that again.
no, no. Oh, beloved time, but unfortunately, it'll never come back. But you know what? Things aren't always meant. Things are always meant to change. It's just with the times, and
Not for
you
the better,
know,
maybe, but
yeah. I mean, I would prefer the Attitude Era over. Not that I hate specifically this era, but there was a certain energy that you
Yeah.
can't get
No,
that
I
you
mean,
had during the
my
Attitude Era.
my co-hosts love the current. I mean, well, they don't love it. They complain about it a lot because they don't do because WWE's not booking who they should. They're not hiring good talent anymore like they used to. But I mean, but it's just never gonna come back. I mean, you can't do the whole Val Venus storylines. You can't do like all the funny stuff. You just can't. Like Val Venus supposed to be getting his dick chopped off on live TV was hilarious. Like never will see that again. And it was just one of the funniest moments ever.
Freaking Stone Cold driving to the arena in a beer truck and shooting beer at people and sticking up the middle finger. And just
I mean, it raised us all to be bastards, basically. But
I'm sure our kids, our parents are like, thank God this is over.
Oh yeah, my parents used to always threaten me: if you keep acting like you do because of wrestling, you're not going to watch it anymore.
Yeah, my mom used to do that. She like, oh, you want to tell your teacher to suck it? All right, you can suck it in your room. You're grounded. So good old times. Good old
Yeah, classic childhood nostalgia.
Oh, absolutely, man. It's been. I'm glad to have you on, man. It's been such a good conversation. I know you got the wife and kids and stuff to do, and I got to start packing for the road trip in the morning. But where people can find your podcast and or where they can find you, because I'm sure people want to if they love TV shows and stuff, they want to definitely check that out and see what you
Yeah.
do.
You could find Bracket Bastards on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on Anchor. I mean, basically, if you just Google it now, it should come up. I believe it should. I mean, we're 20 episodes. We are 19 episodes released. 20th just got recorded this past weekend. It'll be releasing next weekend. We are crossing over with Mass Debaters podcast actually for a two-parter Disney songs bracket.
Oh man,
which if anybody who's heard Bracket Bastards knows I like to sing. So I wasn't on this last episode this weekend because I was recovering from surgery, but I'll be on next week and I will be singing some Disney songs very dirty. But and the new podcast I'm starting is Paranormal, the New Normal. And anybody who hears this and has paranormal stories they want to relate, you can find me, myself, Jeremy Bryant on Facebook. Just look it up. There's not too many of us, but I'm Juggalo Bastard on Twitter and on Instagram. You can find me there as well. Feel free to DM me, PM me if you want to get on my show, be my guest. I am looking for more guests. I have a few lined up, but always looking for more to book down the road. And tell your story. I want to tell your story if you had anything paranormal happen to you.
And that's the bottom line, because Jeremy Bryant says so. And if you're not down with that, I got 2 words for you.
Suck it.
Amazing. Man, Jeremy, I'm glad. One of the best conversations and one of the fun conversations I had in a long time on this podcast. And I wish you well in your podcast journey, because I always love seeing other people do something that they enjoy and then inspiring others to do what they do as well. And I'm gonna have to jump on yours at some point.
Oh man, trust me, we have a wrestling bracket coming up, and we're looking for people who know wrestling past and current. So I'm definitely gonna throw you out. I'm definitely gonna throw your name in there and say like, hey, he knows his stuff. Like if you need someone else, let's hit him up and get him on. I think we're not doing it till like SummerSlam time, but so.
That's fine. Yeah, anytime after I'm back from vacation, I'm fair game. So,
but I'll mention it to my co-host and say like, hey, he knows wrestling and he's a funny ass guy and he'll fit in good with us. I think so.
Funny ass guy and the most charismatic man in entertainment. I'm like The Rock, but
I was gonna say you're like the new Rock.
Yeah, exactly. I'm replacing him. It's out with the old and in with the new. Exactly.
Yeah, and speaking of The Rock, anybody who wants to check out Bracket Bastards, just check out my intro in 2 weeks because I got something planned that's gonna be hilarious.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm gonna definitely tune in. Send me the link too, so I could definitely check that out.
Yeah, I mean, add me on Twitter and shit. Like, add me on whatever you have.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. But like, I know you got the family and everything to take care of, and I gotta start packing and whatever. But thank you, Jeremy, for coming on, and I'm glad your surgery went well. Everybody, your family's doing great, and your podcast, your new podcast is kicking off with a great start. And I look forward to many more collaborations with you, man.
Yep. Feel free to have me back on anytime, brother.
Oh, absolutely. I'll definitely have you back on. And like I always say, a helping hand is a better hand. Thank you, Jeremy.
Not a problem, man. As we always say on Bracket Bastards, it's okay to be a bastard. Don't be a dick.
But that's the best way to end it. You know, Jeremy, the main man, came in, smashed it, and you know, now it's time to enjoy and celebrate like Stone Cold used to do in the Attitude Era. You know.